Okay, so here's our third Tuesday tip in the series on bias binding. This tutorial is going to be about applying your bias binding and also then finishing off and neating it at the ends, okay, so with an invisible join. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your piece you're working on. So I'm just using a scrap that I'm going to, a quilting scrap, I'm going to put bias binding around. You need your bias binding. You're going to need obviously a sewing machine. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a ruler, some sort of pen. This is a friction pen, and an unpicker. Okay. So to start off with, this is the right side of my fabrics, colours, and this is the wrong side. So I'm going to start putting my binding around here. I'm going to start it on the right side because I'm going to sew it over. I'm doing the method that I said I liked the most, with just one side folded down. I'm going to start what I've decided is the bottom, so I'm starting on the front at the bottom of the piece. So my piece is going to be like this if I was hanging it up, and I'm not starting near a corner. Don't start near a corner. I'm sort of starting part of the way along. I'm going to leave, when I get started, I'm going to leave a piece that is just flappy, it's not sewn down, okay? I'm not using a 1/4 inch foot, but I could use a 1/4 inch foot. I'm just going to judge my 1/4 inch, okay? So you could absolutely use a 1/4 inch foot, or if you had a really bulky quilt, this is just a tiny little thing, you would be using a walking foot. So I'm just going to go along, and I can show you, just do my 1/4 inch, and then I can show you how to do a corner. So I tend to do my corners is I take it up to a 1/4 inch, stop, turn it by 45 degrees so it's turning to the actual corner, and then take it out. So that's one side put on, or what's part of one side. Now I'm going to start going down here, and to do that I push my binding up, okay, and then back down like that, and that leaves this part here that will end up being my mitre corner. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that again. Turn my piece to the direction I want to put into my sewing machine to sew down here. I fold up, and when I fold up, I'm actually folding against that piece of sewing that I've just sewn off the edge, and I'm going to fold it back down. I'm going to make this as neat as possible. Okay, and then I'm going to start sewing again. Just start just a 1/4 inch down from the edge. Okay, off we go again. Okay, off to the edge. Take it out, turn it the way you want it to go. Go up and back down. Okay, in 1/4 inch down, no more. And you'll get a gap. Keep going round. So if you wanted to, you could be more precise about your 1/4 inch at the end, 1/4 inch at the end, and then I'm going to go off into the corner. Right, I'm going to go in that way, up and down. I'm over a join here, which is a little bit more tricky. Okay, make it as neat as possible. Do that again, up, it wasn't that neat, and then come back down. This is my second to last corner. Right, so again, turn it to where I'm going, up and down. Off we go in. And here I'm gonna see, you'll see that I get close to where I started. So I'm not going to go right up there. I'm probably going to give myself a 2-inch gap between the end of my beginning piece and where I stop sewing. Okay, so now all of this is done. Just move it around so you start to see what the corners will look like when they're finished. Nice and neat once they're turned over. But before we get to that happy place, we've got to join up, do an invisible join. So we've got our starting point, okay, and we've got our ending point. First thing to do is to make sure that your starting point is straight, it's not on an angle, okay. Then you need to overlap the two by the same distance as the thickness of your that you cut your binding. I'm pretty sure I cut this at 1.5. Let's have a look. 1.5, yeah. So I want to overlap these two by 1.5. So let's do it like this. Put 1.5 on here. Just make sure they're going to overlap by that amount. 1.5, okay. And then I'm just going to make a mark there. Okay. And then I'm going to cut here. Okay. Oops, not very neat cut. Okay, so now I've got my two ends ready to join. Always make sure you've got enough. So if I wanted to unpick a bit more, I could. I think I've got enough though here. So let's get rid of that little bit of. Okay, so turn this one up, so this is right side up. You pull this one over and across it, okay, like that. Over and across, so it forms a really nice neat box, okay. And then you're going to sew from here to here, okay. Again, just like words on a page, start here, you end here on the page, okay. You can pin it. Sometimes it's actually more tricky to pin it. I'll pin it because you can see what I mean. But pin it and then just pop it into the machine, keeping it as straight as you can. Okay, right. Which edge to which edge? This edge to this edge. Okay. Down. You know. And then this should fit exactly, which it does. Happy days. So now you just cut your ears off down to 1/4 inch. And you can start sewing again where you left off, maybe just overlap a little bit. Okay. Now next week I'm going to be showing you binding. Next week I'm going to be showing you piping, my apologies. And we're going to do this join again, but with piping. Okay, so all joined and you can't see where it started, okay. And what I'm going to do is just put some pins in so you see what it would look like once I've hand sewn this together. Put a few in here. One in here. This is just going to give you a feeling for what it will look like once I've hand sewn this on. So I just pop that in like that. Okay, I don't want to bore you. So once this is hand sewn, you're going to get that type of effect. Okay, so you're not going to see the pin obviously, but you can see that the corners are looking really quite nice. Yeah, and on the other side I will just hand sew along there, and it'll be finished. Simple. Next week, piping.